What's going on, good people? Ooh, snap. Guess I'm a little tired. Anywho, um, so my camera's acting a bit crazy. Anywho, so about I want to say about maybe late January, early February, I took a genetics test, um, like from African Ancestry on my maternal line, um, to trace um back to find out basically what tribe I descended from on my maternal line um, in Africa, um, which is something that um, snap, which is something I've been researching for a while now, for about um, I want to say I've been researching um, my ancestry for well a part of about I want to say about 15 years. Yeah, I want to say about 15 years. Um, It didn't really start there though, but it is when I actually started putting foot to plow and trying to figure out exactly um, what tribe I came from in Africa. Um, so I got an email from African Ancestry yesterday, and they said they should be delivering me my results within 24 to 48 hours. So obviously I'm excited. Um, I'm nervous. Um, my wife has been joking with me and telling me that if I'm from certain tribes, that she's gonna disown me and she's gonna go with her own tribe. Which my wife, um, uh, what's up, man? What's up, trio? Um, my wife is Yoruba, so um, but anyway, um, I want to just talk about briefly. I'm not gonna make this a long stream. I just want to talk briefly about when did my journey actually begin, or when did I actually start to wonder about, okay, am I just black or is it more to it? Well, believe it or not, it started way back when I was 8 years old. It started in my third grade class. um, I went to third grade in Lenox Elementary in Cook County. um, and my third grade teacher, her name was Miss Daltrey. um, We actually had two Miss Daughtries in the school. We had Miss Sherry Daughtry, and then we had Miss Thelma Daughtry. I want to say it was Miss Thelma Daughtry, yeah. And I think Miss Thelma Daughtry, yeah, because that year she was my third grade teacher. The next year she was a fourth grade teacher, and some of the some of our classmates, I remember this. Some of our classmates thought she was mean, which she kind of was, but um, the ones that was in third grade, they ended up going into fourth grade and going into her class, so they had two years in a row. So they was pretty upset about it. But anyway, we had an assignment in my third grade class, and the assignment was uh, we had to go home and ask our parents about our ancestry, right? And she explained it. It was basically where we were from, where we originated from, because America was a country of immigrants. So, um, um, I don't think I went home and asked Pearl who I was from. I'm pretty sure that I didn't. Because one thing about me, even as a child, um, I was always inquisitive. I always sought knowledge. So any book that I could get my hand on and read, I would do it. Um, much like I am now. I'm always reading. I'm always researching. Um, just I just believe in seeking knowledge and gaining more knowledge and stuff. So, um, but at that time, only thing that I ever heard about Africa was bad things. Like all the history that we learned in school at that point in time was about, you know, the prominence of European countries and what they had contributed to the world, and, the American Revolution, Britain being a world power, Rome being a world power, Greece being a world power. We never learned anything prominent about Africa. And the only thing that we learned about Africa at that point in time was that the slaves were taken from Africa. Right. And so everything that this is back in the I want to say 90, back in like 1989 or 1990. Yeah, I want to say around that time. So the only thing that back then, they was not teaching nothing about Africa. And they still don't show Africa right now in a great light. But we have the internet. There's actually people on ground showing the real Africa and showing and talking about African history and talking about how Africa contributed to the society of the world. And then the only society that they actually talked about in school that I remember was Egypt. But Egypt was it's so funny because they talked about Egypt in the perspective of Egypt was um, a European based country in Africa. Like they talked about it like the ancient Egyptians were white. And if you know anything about the word of God specifically tells you that Misraim and Cush or Nubia, they were brothers. Like if you ever see a South Sudan person, that's more in line with the ancient Egyptians look like. They're really dark skinned. It was really, really dark. The Nubians are very, very dark skinned. So, anywho, we never really learned anything great about Africa. It was always bad. And then it was always either bad or you see the starving commercials where the people are, poor. Then in school, we only learned that, slaves came from Africa. That's pretty much the only stuff that we learned. And we get back in class the next day. And my teacher, she's going around the class and she's going in alphabetical order. And she gets to me, asks me where I'm from, and I lie. And I say I'm from Germany. Oh boy, you talking about the epitome of the Aryan race. That's why I told my teacher I was from. And Miss Thelma knew she had to know I was lying because she looked at me and was like, Ninja, please. Boy. But there was so much shame attached to saying that I was from Africa. Even back then, I kind of put two and two together because I'm black and I'm looking at black people came from Africa. So I kind of put two and two together. But I remember when I lied and told her that, I remember the shame that was attached to it. I remember the shame that was attached to it. And so, fast forward a few years, to where the Most High gave me the pleasure of actually being able to go to Africa at an early age. I think I was like 19 or 20. Yeah, we went to Djibouti, Africa. I know people are laughing to hear that, but then we went to Djibouti, Africa. And oh my God, and Djibouti at the time, Djibouti now is becoming a very rich country because it's basically becoming the new UAE. It's a hub. It's a shipping hub for all the major world powers and stuff around the world. So it's becoming just as rich as the UAE is at this point in time. But back then in 2002, it was just a poor country, but I loved it. Like I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I did. I loved it. Even though there was East Africans and West Africans are different. Phenotypically, they're different in a lot of ways. I loved it. I felt very connected. I felt like I knew them. And when we had to leave to go to Kuwait on a TSV, I didn't want to go. So I loved everything about it. I mean, you just talking about the smells, you see these beautiful black women walk around in their natural, like corrupted state from colonialism and slavery and Jim Crow. And you see these beautiful black people walking around and carrying themselves a certain way. I just absolutely loved it. And anyway, it reignited my curiosity. So I started doing more research about Africa. The internet had become more prevalent then. So we had more information at our fingertips. So I started researching about Africa. I started studying African history on my own, because they don't, even when you go to college, you have to take a specific course to learn about African history, but they don't really teach African history in school. So I had to learn about African history on my own. And I was amazed in how rich culture and history that the continent of Africa has. Um, you're talking about Maui, Timbuktu, the Ashanti kingdoms, the Benin kingdoms, the Benin Empire. You're talking about the Congo Empire. You're talking about the Zulus. Um, Ethiopia was never conquered. It was never colonized. You're talking about just so many prevalent and powerful civilizations that was in Africa at the time prior to colonialism. And wow, it was just, wow, it just made me want to, like, okay, this is where I descended from. Somewhere along that continent, from there's a lineage that can be traced back to my mother and my father that makes me. So I wanted to know. And I started the journey, really started putting foot to plow. Like I said, about 15 years ago, I started doing my ancestry, and I found out that I could only go back through those means. I could only go back to slavery, right? Which was what they taught us in school. I can only go back to figuring out, what plantation that my people arrived from. Um, and I was able to, on both sides you know, from both parents, I was able to go back and go back up to, I think with my mother, I was able to go back to my great great grandmother and grandfather, through just census records and things of that nature. And my dad, I was able to actually go all the way back to slavery on my dad's side. I was able to go back to my great 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 grandfather was on my father's side. My great 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 grandfather was the slave owner. He was the slave master. My great great grandmother was mixed. She was mulatto. Um, and my great granddad was like three quarters. He was three quarters black and like 25% white, when he had like real curly hair, real straight hair. I'm sorry, I said curly. He had straight hair. His name was Elijah, and his name was Elijah, on my dad's side. And my great great grandmother's name, if I'm not mistaken, her name was Milan, and she was mixed, and he was, had white in him. And then my granddad was born. My granddad Luther was born in 1898. I want to say, yeah. So but I was only able to go back to slavery. So it still left me feeling incomplete. So when they started coming out with these genetic testing sites, they came out with Ancestry.com, had a genetic test, and they have, I think, 23andMe. Whenever they test you, they don't tell you a specific tribe that you're from. They only tell you what region that you're from, or what modern day country that you're from, like Nigeria, Ghana. They'll say you're like 75% Nigerian, but that doesn't really tell you a whole lot, because if you know anything about Africa, Africa is very diverse when it comes to ethnic groups. So I mean, in Nigeria alone, you probably got like 100 ethnic groups, and you got major ethnic groups like the Yoruba, the Igbo, the Hausa, the Fulani, semi-major, the Ewe people, things like that. But you don't have like just one people. So even though they're telling you that you're Nigerian, what tribe are you from? You don't really know that. And the customs of each tribe are different. So I was still like, you could take those tests and you can get in the ballpark. But when I found out about African ancestry, they basically map it down to what tribe that you descended from. And so I was like, okay, I could take that test. So I've been waiting into anticipation. I actually had this conversation kind of yesterday with my wife, because my wife, if it is, people don't know, my wife is, Yoruba. She's Nigerian. She's African. And we were having a conversation, and I hope she don't mind me sharing some of this conversation that we had. But I'm not gonna share too much. But anyway, um, she couldn't empathize with what I was feeling. And I mean, she could hear me, but she couldn't empathize with what I was feeling, as far as being told and treated that you're one thing, just being told that you are a descendant from slaves. Now, I know a lot better. I know it's way more to that now. Like, I know that even most tribes in West Africa, if you know anything about people and ethnic groups, you know, like, let's take for the Zulus, for example. The Zulus, and the Zulu nation, they are descendant from another tribe. I want to say I know they're Bantu, but it was another tribe right up under, because you had the Bantus, and the Bantus broke off in different tribes. And you had another tribe, then you had the Zulus and the Xhosas, and other different ethnic groups in South Africa that broke off of being a Bantu people. So if you know anything about ethnic groups, and you know anything about tribes, you know that's kind of how it works. So you may have a group that would splinter off and form a different tribe. Um, let's say it's kind of like the Israelites. Coincidentally, um, you had um, Jacob and let's say Jacob and Ishmael, not Jacob and Ishmael, Lord Jesus, Jacob and Esau. Esau and Jacob's children formed different people, but they all descended from one person. So the Bantus, um, if you know anything about Hebrew history, the Bantus, many, especially modern day um, Black Hebrews, believe that a lot of the Bantus were actually the original 10 tribes of Israel. Now, I'm not going to get into that too much, but there's a lot of evidence that suggests that they are. And there's a lot of evidence on this side of the Atlantic and on the other side of the Atlantic to suggest that they are. But I'm not going to get into that too tough. I'm just going to talk about the different tribes in Africa. But um, but anywho, I was gonna text. I'll just tell that person I'll call him in a second. But anyway, um, that's crazy. But anyway, um, so yeah, so hopefully later on to hopefully in the morning. What's up, Lumpy? What's going on with you? Um, anyway, hopefully, tomorrow morning I will be able to read off my results. I'm probably going to read them before I do a live. I don't want to do a live unveiling, because there is that chance. There is like a 9% chance, they say, especially, well, if you do your paternal side, there's a 35% chance that it's going to take you back to Europe, which means 1/3 of all enslaved women were being raped by their slave master. Um, but if you do it on your paternal side, on your maternal side, there's a 9% chance that it's going to go back to Europe, meaning that, somewhere along the line, you had a white maternal grandmother. Um, but yeah, that was, like I said, that was my journey um, to get where I'm at. I think that we, as African Americans in this country, we're lost because we don't know where we come from. And when I hear African American people get upset because they're referred to as African, it really bothers me, because African is who we descended from. Being black is what white supremacy made us into being. They put us in the color group because we were too vast. We were too different. And a lot of people don't understand, part of the reason why we don't really get along is because we're a hodgepodge of people. You know, we're a hodgepodge of people in this country. Though black folks are a unique race of people in this country, because we were basically, matter of fact, in some Ghanaian culture in Ghana, some of the women don't like African American men because they feel like we are a mixed breed of African, which is true. We are. They didn't necessarily care about what tribe we was from. They only cared about the color of our skin. So, but anyway, man, I'm gonna bring this to a close. Um, I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for tuning in, and shalom, 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 shalom.